Without a research gap, your study have zero justification, meaning that if you don't identify a gap that your study want to fill, that your project wants to fill, that your master's dissertation wants to fill, or that your thesis wants to fill, there is absolutely no reason why you should continue until you identify one. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to identify a research gap. This is like a masterclass guide for undergraduate researchers. If you're here and you're watching this and you're a master's student, it's still going to be useful because there might have been some things you missed out as an undergraduate, because since the foundation is not laid, what happens? You don't know what to do later. Anyway, the most important thing now is for us to move forward. And if you are a PhD student, of course, this might help you understand some basic things that you need to know. Yeah. All right. So what is a research gap? A research gap is a disjointed part of a flow. It is a missing piece in an existing research. It is an unanswered question in literature. It is a weakness or a limitation in previous studies. It's simple. It could be anything that is just making or giving room for incompleteness. Now, you looked at a study and you said, what is missing in this study? What could it be that this author has missed out something? So it is a missing component. When you research, studies, papers, articles, projects, perhaps they've done a research in a particular area or country, and then they haven't done it in yours. That gap is the fact that they haven't done it in yours. So let's think about this. Why research gap matters? Why does it matter? It helps us, prevent duplication of past studies. Or someone have done something in area A. You don't want to do area A again specifically. You need to be able to do it in a way that someone else hasn't done it. So absolutely, people will say there's nothing new under the earth. Yeah, that sounds correct. But the thing is that we do the same thing in different ways. So it's not duplicate, it's just from another perspective. So you need to be able to justify it based on the uniqueness of your study. And then again, when you identify a gap, you make a statement based on that. You make a problem statement based on the gap. When there is a gap, it means there is a problem. Then you make a statement based on the gap. So it will strengthen your defense, strengthen your position, and it will inspire your cause and efforts. Now, where do we find research gap? I've given an insight by now. If you've been following me adequately, you have a clear idea of how to find research gap. Where do you even get them? You find them in limitation sections of journal articles. That's why it's good. If you are really very deep in literatures, you will see a lot of problems and you see a lot of gaps that you can fill. So you have to be soaked in literature for you to express. I've never been as soaked in literature except for 2 seasons in my life. The times I was having my master's degree, when I did some writings, and my PhD degree. That was my deepest time in literature, and I've built a culture after then to continuously connect myself with literatures in the field. But most importantly, you need to read journal articles. Journal articles provide new insight, new studies, a micro study, in fact, and all of this is not really very in-depth. Sometimes they will just be touching on certain areas, but when you read it, it sparks your idea, it sparks insight in your head, and once you want to replicate it, if you're a very creative person, in other contexts. So in recommendation section of works, you will be able to find some insight as per what other researchers can do, because there's a room for a researcher to recommend areas for further study. And because they have recommended areas for further studies, you are able to tap into that and use that as a way of building on something new, then laying it on that foundation. And in contradiction to what I've just said, sometimes you want to do research that is contradicting an existing research. So you have to look at sometimes comparison between 2 studies, and sometimes you want to do something directly opposite. Let's say, for instance, someone have looked at traditional media and studies something, role of blah 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 in traditional media. You want to look at the opposite of traditional media, role of blah 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 in digital media. You understand what I mean? So now, in under research population or location, sometimes population is the only thing that makes the difference. So let's say someone have looked at studying X within X area. You can decide to study that same X, but within your own area or your location, or amidst different population. Oh, you can see social media use among private university students. Someone else can do blah 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 use in what public universities, and someone can look at, oh, in Lagos State University, and I've say in Unilag, and say some can say in Lagos State universities, and someone else can say in Ogun State universities. So you can, it may just be a twerk of population. So these are places where you can find research gap. You can find research gap in journal articles, reading the section called recommendation for further studies, looking at the limitation of the study, looking at contradiction between studies where authors have argued that this for or against. You can have an idea of how that works. So now, moving on, there are some common mistakes that undergraduate students make, and you need to avoid these bits. Choosing a topic first is a big error. Picking a topic before reading, you haven't identified a gap. So what's the basis of your topic? Assuming a problem exists without evidence, that's what it means. So you need to ensure that you don't make this mistake. And copying previous project topics is absolutely no gamer, because that's just gonna, it's like you digging up a pit for yourself. Anyway, you are the one that dug the pit. You know where the pit is, and definitely you fall into it. It's not, you're not helping your supervisor, so you don't want to do that. You want to operate with clarity. Do not copy previous projects. You can read them to gain insights and then map a way for yours. Now, types of research gap. There are different types of research gap. Like I mentioned earlier, there is population gap, different groups that are not studied. There is geographical gap, different locations. I've also given this example. There is methodological gap. Perhaps a person have used a quantitative study. You can use qualitative study. In fact, use this method. You understand what I mean? And there is theoretical gap. Perhaps this person have explained this using A theory. You can explain the same problem using B theory. These are gaps, and you can decide to say, oh, you want to cover up and reduce the gap for future, and say you're using mixed method, using A and B. These are gaps. Now, let's take a look at geographical example. Now, many studies examine social media and politics in the US. You see that? Few examine its impact among Nigerian undergraduates, and this creates a geographical gap. You see the flow. Many studies examine social media and politics in the US. That is a foundational statement. Now, the gap. Few examine its impact among Nigerian undergraduates. And you can see the gap already, that there is something that is being done in the US that has not been done in Nigeria, or less have been done. Then this is a gap, and that is geographical. Let's take a look at methodological gap. Previous studies have used survey only. Few have used interview for deeper insights. Your study can use mixed method. You see that? That's how it works. It's magical. It's simple, right? So it's not difficult. It's not difficult. So previous studies used survey only, meaning that they are banking on quantitative data. And few used interview. And you will know interview gives strength, gives qualitative insights, and even explains the quantitative results. You can blend these two together, and your study will be stronger for it. Oh, let's take a look at this first simple step approach to identifying gaps. So I'll call this simple four-step gap identification formula. Step 1 is for you to read between 5 to 15 recent journal articles in identify what they studied. Before you even, how do you even select the journal to read? Maybe you have an area of interest. That place, that thing that is giving you temptation to decide the topic before you read. Just have an idea of the topic area, and then search up articles in that area. Read them up, 10 to 15 of them. Read them first time. Read them the second time. Now, the second time, start underlining things. What is happening to you? What's your experience reading it? What are you thinking? Start taking notes and reflecting. Then, identify what they studied. Identify, step 3, identify what they did not study. If you are able to draw a table, what did they study? What did they not study? Now, position your study where they did not study. That's step 4. That is a gap, because where they did not study is where the gap is. Now, how do you then write it? If you have done that tabular thing, what they did, what they did not do, what you want to do to cover up for what they did not do, summarize what they have done, highlight and mention the limitation and what is absent, state clearly how they have missed it. You say, for example, starting with however few studies. If you take a look at this is a sample statement starter. However few studies. So therefore, your own coming in, what you'll be doing, therefore this study, that is your own study, will now do the 6 to this study will, just be free to use your words. So what is not a research gap? You saying that there is a problem in Nigeria is not a research gap. It is too vague. Second, no one has studied this topic before. This is rarely true. Rarely true. In fact, there are some people that idea that looks fresh here, and someone is thinking about is about who will do it first. Your personal opinion, 3, without literature support, is baseless. It will only lead to failure. So know what you are doing. These 3 things. Don't fall for the fact that you are just generalizing. Don't fall for the fact that you think you are the only one that will do it or that will ever think about it. And the third one, banking on your personal opinion. That is a big failure. Now, this is a practice exercise for you. Select a topic area. I didn't say you should write out your project topic. A topic area. Find 5 recent articles to start with. List what they studied. List what they did not study. And once you have done these 2, it is very easy for you to subtract what they study from what they did not study. And that is your gap. Then identify your gap. If you do this, put it in the comments that this is helpful, I will do it. This is helpful, I will start now. And once you have done that, come back to let us know. Now, again, read before choosing. That's a final reminder. Don't fall for submitting topic before reading. Evidence before assumption. Evidence always before assumption. Gaps must be identified before writing chapter 1. In my next video, I'll be sharing to you on how to write a chapter 1 properly. So if you have watched up to this point and you enjoy what you see, do well to engage this video. Subscribe now. It's a good time for it. It won't hurt you. It doesn't take anything from you. Just click on the red button. Okay, you still haven't done it. Do it now. Have you? Okay, thank you. So well done, and I look forward to seeing your face. No, you look forward to seeing my face in the next video. And cheers.